Hi everybody, it's Mariana with 3 Peaks Classroom. If you are new to my channel, hello and welcome. I am a teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other educators just like you. In today's episode, I want to talk about the different writing units that you should have in your ELA program for the entire school year. Now, whether you use a pre-written year plan like the ones that I have in my TPT shop, or whether you've created your own, regardless of which year plan you use, I believe that these are the specific writing units that you need to have in your year plans to make sure that you've covered the majority of your language arts program. Now, this is going to be different depending on where you teach and what curriculum you have, because you might have additional units or, perhaps you don't need all 9 of these units. But I believe that if you have all of these units in your language arts program in some form or another, then you will have a very robust language arts program in your classroom. This video is going to be geared towards teachers from like grades 3 and 4 and then building up to grades 5 and 6. We know in grade 3 and 4, we are starting to build those foundational writing units. So kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, we're learning about words and sentence structure. And now in grades 3 and 4, we are putting that together to form coherent sentences, logical paragraphs, etc. And then in grade 5 and 6, we are enhancing those as well. So this video is geared towards anywhere between grades 3 and grade 6. All right, so I want to dive right in and share with you all 9 units that I believe you should have in your language arts program. I do have my laptop here because I have written down notes about each of the units and I want to make sure I don't forget what I want to say about each of the units. But we're going to dive right in. And the very first unit, again, in no order, that I believe you should have in your language arts program is a narrative writing unit. So narrative writing, this is your story elements. You are teaching your students about setting, characters, and plot structure, suspense, conflict resolution, all of that. This is where you are incorporating all of those elements into your narrative writing unit. Now in grade 3, you are laying down the groundwork for future grades in terms of narrative writing. So you are explicitly teaching them what is a character, what is a setting, what makes up a setting, how does a plot structure work, what happens in the introduction, what is the, rising action or, suspenseful moments in the story, what is the climax of the story, problem resolution, how do you end a story. These are all parts that you are introducing in grades 3 and in grade 4. And then I believe in grades 5 and 6, you are building on those and enhancing your stories. The best way to teach this unit is by clearly pointing out these parts in narrative mentor texts. If you are looking for a specific resource on how you want to teach fictional narrative writing, I do have 2 versions right now. I have my grade 3 version, which is more simplified. It's a puzzle piece. So you are showing your students that all of these puzzle pieces fit together in order to teach in order to write a story, I should say, and then you go into each individual part. So this is available in my TPT shop for grade 3. And I have a grade 4 version, which is a little bit more comprehensive. So we're talking about the beginning, middle, and end, and how we have character and details in the beginning that are introduced. You have some dialogue, you have some suspenseful moments, the main event, then you have your solution winding down to a thoughtful conclusion. So I have it a little bit more enhanced in grade 4. And again, you're going through all the different parts of the plot structure as well. So this is all part of the narrative writing unit, which I think is crucial in any language arts program. Now, of course, the way that you teach the unit is totally up to you, and the way that you focus, the themes are up to you. You could have a fairy tale theme or things like that, but a narrative writing unit is absolutely important to have in any grades 3 to 6 writing language arts program. All right, unit number 2 that I think every classroom needs to have in their language arts program is informative or expository writing. In grades 3 and 4, this looks like paragraph writing, in my opinion, and I do have a resource for that as well. So in my writers unit, in grade 3, we are teaching it very explicitly. So here we have an anchor chart talking about how to build a paragraph, but I also have included in my grade 3 writer's notebook is a paragraph checklist. So when your students are learning how to write a paragraph, they go through and make sure that they have all of these elements included. And then in grade 4, it's the same poster to remind the students of what a juicy paragraph looks like. So in this unit, expository writing or informative writing, you're going to be talking about the differences between fictional and non-fictional texts. You're going to be pulling things like text features as well to show the differences between both. But in this unit as well, students are trying to learn or going to be learning about how to write informative texts in a logical, sequential order. they're going to be developing paragraphs or written work that has a topic sentence and then supporting sentences underneath that support the topic as well. All right, unit number 3 that I think you need to have in your language arts program is opinion or persuasive writing. And this starts in grade 3 as well, where you're learning about the basics of how to form a persuasive argument. You're also learning about the author's purpose and picking out pieces. When you're reading a text, you're trying to pick out keywords like, when you hear words like should, that is very persuasive, right? And so you're teaching your students about opinion writing and persuasive writing. I love to teach this unit by dissecting short essays or looking at commercial scripts, because commercials are intended to get you to buy something or to sign up for something. So looking at commercials as well as like opinion pieces that have been written in newspapers, I think those are all very important, and you can start highlighting the words that show the students that this is in fact an opinion or a persuasive piece. In this unit, students are learning to have an opinion stated and then supporting evidence that helps to support and claim their topic at the very top. And so one way that we like to teach that in my grade 4 writer's notebook is the Oreo method. And so students are telling us their opinion, they're giving us the reason for their opinion, and here's an example of their opinion, and then they're restating their opinion again. So it's kind of like a paragraph as well, but here students are learning how to express their opinion, but support it with evidence as well. So this is a nice and easy way to structure opinion writing, which is another unit that I believe every classroom should have. All right, unit number 4 that every classroom should have is descriptive writing. Now this unit is unique because I don't teach it as a standalone unit for like a month. I will teach it explicitly because everything we know needs to be taught explicitly. So I will teach this explicitly in my year plans for maybe the first 1 or 2 weeks in October, but then we reinforce these techniques throughout the entire year. So descriptive writing, that means we're adding adverbs and adjectives into all of our writing to make it juicier. We were talking about juicy paragraphs before. How can I make this piece of writing juicier? What kind of details can I add to make this juicier? So again, like I mentioned, we talk about it at the beginning of October, and then in around Halloween, we might write a persuasive piece or a Halloween piece that uses a lot of descriptive language, fitting for Halloween. And then maybe for winter, we're doing like a winter wonderland story. And how can we describe how cold it was or how frosty it looked outside using descriptive language? So I like to sprinkle these topics, the descriptive unit, throughout all of my other writing pieces throughout the year, but still making sure that I've at least explicitly taught it at the very beginning of the year. Also, your poetry unit, this is a wonderful way to sprinkle in descriptive writing in your poetry units. If you're looking for a quick and easy activity to do for descriptive writing, one thing I like to do in the morning is I like to have a morning message where the students have to edit my spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes, grammar mistakes, etc. And then we take out a highlighter and I'll say, okay, everybody, can you please highlight all of the describing words or the adjectives and adverbs, and please highlight them. And so it's really bringing it off the page and jumping at the students. Wow, this says, fluffy, and this says frosty outside or whatever. Maybe the letter of the week was F. I don't know. But we're using highlighters and we're really making it obvious that we have added adjectives and adverbs to our sentences. Or I might go the reverse way and I might say, all right, now that we've edited our morning message, can you make it juicier? Let's add in an adverb. Let's add in some adjectives as well to spice up this morning message. All right, unit number 5 in your language arts program is a very simple one to teach, and it's friendly letter writing. So this doesn't take a lot of time, but it's important to teach so that students know how to write with a specific audience in mind. They're also learning about the specific structure of a text. And so in a friendly letter, you have 5 different elements. You have a greeting, you have the date, you have the body of your letter, you have a closing, and then you have your signature as well. So they're learning how to write a structured piece, but in a friendly way. So I like to teach this unit. I like to start it in December because then it gets them to write a letter to Santa Claus about what they would like to have for Christmas. But then we reinforce this learning when we approach Mother's Day and Father's Day, where we write letters to our parents. But then we finish off the year by writing a letter to the student who is going to be sitting in my seat next year. Here is what you need to know about what it's like to be in this teacher's class or in grade 3 in general. So this next unit is going to be absolutely, without a doubt, the most critical and important unit that you will have to teach in your classroom all year long. Sounds pretty big, right? No stress. This is your grammar, conventions, and mechanics unit. And it's not a unit, it's a year-long thing. You will be teaching this every single day explicitly because we need to reinforce these practices in our students so that it becomes automatic. So I'm talking about learning about grammar structure, so how a sentence is structured, learning about conventions, punctuation, capitals, things like that, but also learning about the mechanics of writing, and that is your spelling program, your phonics program, making sense of words and how words are put together and things like that. So grammar, conventions, and mechanics, this is something that you need to reinforce every single day. Now, how does that look like in my classroom? Well, for me, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, for the very first 30 minutes of the day, we do a phonics lesson, and it changes depending on the day of the week. Mondays, I'd like to do word wall words, where we introduce new high-frequency words that the students are practicing all week long. And in their writing, I'm encouraging them to use these high-frequency words. Wednesdays, we play a sorting activity. So it's basically sorting word family words. We do a big activity, 30 minutes in front of the whole class. Everybody does it. And then Friday, we do an activity called making words, where we're trying to build 2-letter words, 3-letter words, 4-letter words, all the way up to the magic word. And so that is partly my phonics and spelling program. Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I am teaching them explicit grammar lessons. So I have a grammar notebook for grades 3 and 4. I am currently working on a grade 5 language arts notebook as well. But in my grammar notebook, we are talking about all of the specific grammar and mechanics, grammar conventions and mechanics that your students need to understand. And again, we are teaching this explicitly so that they have a very clear understanding and a foundational knowledge as well. You should be reinforcing these concepts every single day in all of the writing that your students do, with the exception of creative free writing. In that case, students need to be given the opportunity to just write without worry about conventions, but every other writing, students should be practicing it. Anything that they turn in, they should have already edited their work or revised their work. They should be practicing this so that it is very familiar to them and automatic. All right, that brings me into my 7th unit, which is editing and revising. This is something that you should also be promoting in your class or covering in your class throughout the entire year and not just a specific unit. And any language arts teacher will tell you that this is something that is an ongoing battle. How many times have I had a student turn in a piece of paper and the very first thing they wrote is not capitalized? The start of their sentence, the very first letter, the start of the sentence is not capitalized. It drives me bonkers. So what I do in my classroom is I have a currency system. And when they do their morning message or when they hand something in, something short and sweet, if it has an error on it, they automatically lose their chance to earn currency. But if they hand something in, something short, like a couple sentences, and it's written correctly without any sort of editing mistakes, then they earn some currency in my class. So again, the topic of editing and revising is going to have to be explicitly taught in your class. I do have this covered in my language arts notebooks. So in my grade 3 and grade 4 notebooks, we do a whole lesson on revising, and we use the acronym ARMS. And so students are literally learning explicitly, I need to look for this, adding sequencing words. I need to look for repeated words. I need to look and understand if I need to move around sentences or rewrite something that's confusing, or substitute. Is there a better word that I can use? Again, talking about descriptive language. Is there a better word that I can use in place of this word? So that this lesson is in my grade 3 and grade 4. But one thing that cannot be understated here is the effectiveness of peer editing. And I have a whole page dedicated to peer editing in my grade 4 notebook, where this is a checklist that students refer to continually. And it has 3 sections. So you're checking somebody else's work for capitalizations, you're checking your partner's work for punctuation mistakes and spelling. So peer editing, the value of peer editing, like I said, cannot be understated. Not only are they reading somebody else's work, but while they're reading somebody else's work, they are internalizing and they're thinking about, wow, that's a really good sentence. I might think about changing my sentence to sound more like this one. Or, oh my goodness, they did a really terrible job of adding descriptive language. I better make sure that I have really good descriptive language because this piece of writing is not very exciting to read, but I want mine to be very good to read. All right, the second to last unit that I want to mention to you today, so this is unit number 8. This is creative writing. And this is where you're going to be introducing and talking about poetry and free writing and writing that can or does not have to have any structure. And I like to approach this, like I mentioned, in my poetry unit, but I also like to approach this with my journal writing. So every day after lunch, in order to settle my students down after they've been outside for recess and they've had some lunch, in order for them to settle down, I like for them to do journal writing. And the way that I've done it in my classroom, I've done it in two different ways, is I'll have one journal prompt on the board that they have to write down and everybody needs to reply to that. Or I've had a piece of paper where the students get to select the journal prompt that they want to write about that day. And then in their journal writing, they are free to write as however they would like, including doodles, including drawings. But I'm not looking for grammar conventions and spelling. I don't want them to be limited in that capacity. I want them to enjoy writing. That's the whole point of this activity. I want them to write creatively and enjoy the process and not be bunkered down and worry about, oh, did I spell that right? Or how do I spell that word? Or, oh, I need to make sure I go back and edit my mistakes. Not here. This is not the time for that. I want them to be creative in their writing. As part of my journal entry prompts, a few selections on the page allow for some persuasive writing. So, convince me why we should have an extra week-long holiday in May or something like that. Or I also have short stories. So write a story with this sentence starter, or write a story about a day when you woke up and everything in the world turned pink. Whatever the case, I want students to be able to have opportunities to write creatively in the classroom, and not just a standalone unit, like not just a poetry unit that you cover for 3 weeks in April. I'm talking about multiple opportunities throughout the year for them to experience and enjoy the process of writing. The 9th and final unit that I believe you need to have in your classroom is a unit about research and report writing. I wrote a lot of notes about this because this is such a critical piece that's going to serve them very well as they age up into junior high, high school, and beyond. So research writing, the ability to research properly, synthesize those ideas that they've researched, and cite their sources. This cannot be understated. And yes, it can start in grade 3. So in my grade 3 notebook, that's this one, I have an entire unit that's dedicated, in my writer's notebook, it's dedicated to report writing. So the title here, the first part is teaching students how to gather research. And then they have a whole lesson on how to cite for evidence. And then planning for their report. So here they have a template about how they want to plan and organize in a sequential logical order. Then we have our rough draft. Then we have our revising and presenting. This is also part of it as well. So you're working on your public speaking. So that is from my grade 3 writer's notebook, and grade 4 is very similar as well. So grade 4, we're talking about brainstorming an idea. What is a topic that is interesting to you that you want to research about? And then the steps to research. So here students are learning about the proper technique for researching. Organizing and editing, similar to grade 3. Citations, again, how can we cite that these ideas are not mine? They belong to somebody else. It's important that we teach students now how to do that. And then publishing and presenting their reports as well, similar to the grade 3 one as well. And this skill of being able to read a website or read a book and not just copy the sentence straight out of the book is such a hard skill for students to learn, but it is so critical that we begin the process of teaching them how to do this. In grades 1 and 2, they're learning how to read a question and scan text. Well, maybe grade 2. Grade 1, they're still learning how to put words together. Grade 2, they're learning how to read a question and scan a piece of text ahead of them, maybe like 2 sentences, and figure out where the answer is and then rewrite that. And they're figuring out the process of how to answer the question. And that's great. But now in grades 3 and 4, we need to show them how you take that sentence and think about it in your brain first. Does it make sense to me? Can I understand this information? And if I was to turn around and explain it to a friend of mine, how would I explain it to them? I'm not going to read word for word what it says on the text, but I'm going to explain it. And that explanation is what I need to take and write down on my piece of paper. And yes, that's a lot of work, especially if students are still struggling with mechanics and spelling and conventions and all that. And they're thinking about, okay, capital T and da-da-da-da. And now what was I thinking about? That's a lot. That takes a lot to process. And so this skill needs to be taught explicitly and practiced and reinforced throughout the entire school year. This research writing skills unit is a really easy one to go hand in hand when you're teaching about expository writing or like informative writing, because you are researching and doing a report. So I like to do those hand in hand, and we like to do 2 reports in the year in my classroom, but that takes a long time. A report will take us about 4 to 5 weeks if you think about all the steps that are involved in research report writing. Learning how to research, ask questions, organize all of your research into clear, logical paragraphs, and citing your sources and editing everything, that's a lot of work. It takes a long time, but it's a very crucial and important skill. Okay, so let's see the units that we covered. Unit number 1, narrative writing. Number 2, informative and expository writing. Unit number 3, opinion persuasive writing. 4, descriptive writing. We like to sprinkle that one in. Unit 5 is letter writing. Unit number 6, grammar, mechanics, phonics, spelling, the big one. Unit number 7 is editing and revising. Again, we are reinforcing this all year long. Unit 8 is creative writing, giving your students opportunities to creatively write. And then the last one is research skills. Can they come up with a report? And again, I like to tie this in with my second unit, expository writing, and also cross-curricularly, can I pull something out of science or social where we are writing a report on that? I forgot to show off my t-shirt, by the way, at the very beginning of the episode. I bought this recently. It's a comma. Wait, what? ? Which I thought was very appropriate for talking about a language arts program. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I know it was a longer one, but it is very vital and it's crucial information, because I think that a lot of teachers are lost when it comes to a language arts program. You are given these list of outcomes, but you're not sure how to like group these outcomes. So now that you have all of these units, you can go back and you can look at your year plan, you can look at the outcomes and you can group them and say, well, this one sounds like it could belong in this unit, and this one sounds like it can belong in this unit. And also, additionally to that, you can look at a project that you want to do in science or social, and you can pull out these research skills or expository writing skills from language arts to also hit home when you're teaching about science and social. So if you're thinking like, whoa, that sounds like a lot of work, take all the outcomes from the program of studies and sift them and organize them into all of these 9 units. It is a lot of work, actually, which is why I've gone ahead and I have made a grade 3 unit year plan and a grade 4 year plan specifically for Alberta teachers, but you can use this in any other district as well. You would just have to substitute your outcomes. But I've already laid out for you exactly when you should be teaching the topics during the different months. So for example, if I flip over here to December, we talked about this already, December in writing, our focus is friendly letter. So that's our focus for the entire month. And then if I flip to January, after friendly letter writing, after our break in January, I'm introducing the kids to organizational or paragraph writing. So there's your expository writing. There's your second unit right there. And then we move on to story elements in February. So that is your narrative writing unit. So again, my grade 3 year plans and my grade 4 year plans all have these writing units laid out for the entire year. You can also combine them with the notebooks as well. So this tells you what to teach and when to teach it. And this tells you how to teach it. And it gives you all the materials that you need. And again, all of these resources and bundles can be found in my TPT shop to make your life easier in language arts. So I hope that demystified things for you. I hope that breaking down the entire language arts program in terms of writing skills, I should say, I hope that it has given you a little bit more clarity as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody that you think who might benefit from seeing this video as well, perhaps another teacher. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes that are coming out on my channel. I like to post a new video every week. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.